Today I'm going to go over something a little bit different. It's actually going to be a setting, something that I would actually say is almost a forgotten setting. It was made in 1992 by TSR, and the author was Colin McComb, and it was the basic setting Thunderrift. Now, this campaign setting book is extremely short. It's only 32 pages long. However, in that 32 pages, it goes over traveling in Thunderrift, which actually goes through and describes 14 different geographical areas. The history of Thunderrift, which is left intentionally vague but could be hundreds of years ago. It all depends on what you as the DM decide to do with it. It then goes over what it calls the 3 major settlements, which is the 3 human villages in the setting. The next chapter is Denizens of the Rift, which goes over what actually resides in 13 of the 14 different geographical areas. Then it goes over some rumors that adventurers could get while traveling the area, and then the last page is mainly just 2 new monsters, which aren't exactly new. It's just a centaur and a unicorn. Now, what I'm going to do for this is I'm actually going to go through it chapter by chapter, just like it is in the front of the book. So the first part I'll be going over is traveling in Thunderrift. One minor note before we continue any further. Thunderrift is actually designed as like a mini setting. It's actually designed to be put into any setting that has mountains. The entire region is extremely small. I think somebody said it's about 19 miles square. It's designed for getting players used to campaigning in an open world, and it's made for mainly characters that are only level 1 through 3. Now that we got that part done, onwards to the rest of the book. The first section described is the Foralis Hills. It's in the northwest. Its name is derived from a famous dwarf adventurer that first set foot in the rift. The hills are all smooth and evenly rounded and almost looking artificial. There's very little in the way of trees in the area. It's mainly littered with sagebrush and small trees every now and then. The biggest settlement in the area is actually going to be this place called Hearthhome. It's a dwarven keep that controls pretty much one of the few exits out of Thunderrift, and it's covered in marks of war and battle because the dwarves and the goblins and orcs that populate the area constantly fight over it. There is a road that goes between Hearthhome and the nearest human village of Klein, but due to the ongoing severity of battles between the orcs and dwarves at this time, it's kind of trade is kind of decreased. Just to the east of the Foralis Hill is the village of Klein and the Lake Austral. I'll go over the village in a later part of this video, but the lake itself is actually fed by a waterfall called the Plunging Cataract. This waterfall itself is part of the reason why this sort of like canyon area has gained the name Thunderrift, because the crashing water against the lake creates a resounding sound that echoes all the way across the rift, making a thundering sound. Though apparently some sort of acoustical trick has made the sound more muffled for the villagers in the nearby village of Klein, making it so they can deal with it. The next section, just to the east of the village of Klein, is referred to as the Burning Hills. It's referred to that way because of the numerous amounts of steam vents and geysers that dot the landscape. Its primary residents happen to be kobolds and goblins, who have been run out of the woods by elves. The Gloom Forest is next. It lies to the east and south of the Burning Hills and covers nearly a quarter of the entirety of the Thunderrift. Obviously, since it covers so much space in the way this setting was made, it can cover a variety of different types of terrain, whether from thick woods to sparsely covered woods to mainly just some group of hills with nothing on it. Of note, this is one of the areas that is populated by the elves, though there are rumors that stone giants or hill giants have moved into the area. This forest also hides one of the few exits from the Thunderrift also. Though travelers beware, the elves or something has apparently magically enchanted part of the woods to intentionally try and confound adventurers wandering around it. The Great Grasslands actually stretches from the northernmost portion of the Thunderrift to almost the bottom third of the valley. Its terrain can be described as almost like a rolling prairie. There's a bunch of hills everywhere covered in 4-foot tall grass. However, if one looks closely, you can find the remnants of armor worn by the elves and the dwarves when they had their major battle in the past. The Great Grasslands also contains numerous small villages of maybe 20 to 30 people in each one of them, and is also populated by numerous herd animals. The Gloom Fens lie south of the Feralis Hills. They are the former site of what was called the Warriors Academy back in the day, but has now been reduced to a muck-filled swampland due to the magic spells that the magic users had unleashed upon the academy at the time when they had their own little civil war going on in the Rift. Because of their decision, the forest that used to be there has turned into a disgusting swampland that, per this book, says that whenever entering it, every creature must roll a successful saving throw versus poison or suffer a -1 penalty to their attack and damage rolls as well as their armor class while in the swamp. And this is due to the air has become toxic in the area. Birchwood is next. It lies to the south of the Gloom Fens in a box canyon. It is described as an extremely beautiful forest. Of note, directly in the center of the Brickwood, or Birchwood, whatever you want to call it, lies a magical spring that is at least partially responsible for the forest beauty. This spring heals all wounds, it takes care of all curses, and all diseases are also removed from anybody that drinks from the spring. However, there is apparently some sort of agreement between all the people that have previously found the spring to not allow it to be abused. And they also do not share the information of where the spring is. If someone decides to become violent near the spring, the guardians, they continually attack the offender until they're near death, then heal them with the spring, and then do it over and over and over again. Then they drag the broken body to the edge of the woods and leave it there for scavengers to eat. Guess that takes care of the problem most permanently. Up next is the mysterious Grackenwood, which lies due east of the Brickwood. It is full of towering trees and the remnants of attempts to civilize the place. The thick canopy prevents very little light from touching the ground, and how each one of the attempted startup villages were destroyed has not been discovered, though there are signs of large footprints, along with signs of battle between large creatures found within the forest. The Melanir area lies just east of northern Grackenwood. Its hills are riddled with ancient mines of dwarves and the more modern mines of humans. Near this area lies the village of Torlin, and to the south and west of Torlin is the city of Melanir. To the south and west of Melanir is the Marshwood, which is exactly as described. It's a wood that is also a marsh, which makes it extremely uncomfortable. Surrounding it, or actually inside of it, is a bunch of cabins which have been obviously ransacked and destroyed, and its inhabitants murdered. And this has all been done by lizardmen who live within the Marshwood, and they don't want anybody else there. The Marshwood then leads to the Black Swamp to the east, which is obviously a swamp, and parts of it are full of quicksand, which, unlike real-life quicksand, is apparently extremely deadly in fantasy settings. It is also covered in a bunch of disgusting insects that want to suck your blood, apparently. To the east of the Black Swamp is the Horned Hills, and the only thing of note for the Horned Hills is the fact that it has one of the easiest exits from the Rift. It has an even, smooth trail that fully laden wagons can easily traverse. However, though the threats are few, the ones that do exist are extremely terrible ones. The Bone Hills are in the southwest corner of Thunder Rift. These hills are not as hospitable as the Horned Hills. It is described as a jagged, bleak, and harsh environment that is subject to frequent flash floods. There is reputably an exit from the Thunder Rift in this area, but no one has investigated it, due mainly to the rumor that the Bone Hills are the home of at least one dragon. And the final area described is called the Drake River. It's a majestic river that flows throughout the entire Thunder Rift and is used to facilitate trade in the entire region. Alright, at this point I'm at over the 10-minute mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split this video up into probably about at least 2 sections, maybe 3. I don't know. I'll see what happens. Up next should be going over the history of Thunder Rift. That may be a video all on its own. And then I may include the 3 major human settlements in that video also. As usual, I hope my video has helped somebody out there. I appreciate you guys listening to it, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.